Everyone calls their planet dirt, but when humans do it, it's a fucking slap in the face to the rest of the galaxy. Odin slammed his fist on the console, shaking his head in disbelief. Loki glanced up from his datapad, raising an eyebrow at his senior colleague's outburst. I don't understand. Why is it so surprising that humans call their planet Earth? Many species name their homeworlds after abundant resources. Odin leaned back in his seat, his gaze fixed on the stars streaking past the viewport. It's not just the name, Loki. It's what they've done with their dirt. They've turned it into a thriving civilization that puts the rest of us to shame. He thought back to their meeting with the human ambassador, Michael Gray. The man had towered over them, his broad shoulders filling out his impeccably tailored suit, but it was his eyes that had captured Odin's attention, eyes that shone with a fierce intelligence and an unwavering determination. The humans have faced challenges that would have broken most species, Odin continued. Wars, natural disasters, resource scarcity, you name it, they've dealt with it. But instead of giving up, they fought back. They developed technologies and social structures that allowed them to not just survive but thrive on their hostile world. Loki frowned, setting down his datapad. But why does that matter? Every species has its own struggles and triumphs. True, Odin conceded, but the humans are different. Their resilience, their adaptability, it sets them apart. And now they're spreading out into the galaxy, claiming new worlds and forging alliances with other species. If we're not careful, they'll leave us all in the dust. He turned to face Loki, his expression grave. Mark my words, the humans are going to change everything, and we need to be ready for it, or risk being left behind on our own little dirtballs while they reshape the universe in their image. Loki's curiosity piqued at Odin's bold statements about humanity's resilience. He turned fully to face his colleague, datapad forgotten on the console. You've made some sweeping claims about the humans, Odin. I'd like to hear more specifics. What challenges have they overcome that impress you so much? Odin's eyes lit up, eager to share the tales that had captured his imagination. Oh, where to begin? Ambassador Gray shared so many fascinating stories during our meeting, but one, in particular, stood out to me. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. In the early 21st century, the humans faced a crisis that threatened their entire planet. They called it climate change. Loki's brow furrowed. Climate change, what's that? It was a global catastrophe caused by the humans' over-reliance on fossil fuels and unsustainable practices, Odin explained. Their planet was warming at an alarming rate, causing melting ice caps, rising sea levels, and increasingly frequent natural disasters. Large portions of their world were at risk of becoming uninhabitable. Loki's eyes widened. That sounds dire. How did they survive? Odin grinned. That's the incredible part. Instead of giving up or resorting to short-term solutions, the humans came together and tackled the problem head-on. They invested heavily in renewable energy technologies like solar, wind, and geothermal power. They developed advanced carbon capture and storage systems to remove excess carbon dioxide from their atmosphere and store it safely underground. He shook his head in amazement. It took time, but their efforts paid off. They managed to stabilize their climate and restore their ecosystems, and that's just one example of how humanity's determination and ingenuity have allowed them to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. Loki sat back in his chair, pondering Odin's words. It's impressive, to be sure. Perhaps we Yadarans could learn something from the humans' approach to problem-solving. Odin nodded. That's exactly what I've been thinking. We've grown complacent, relying on our advanced technology to solve our problems. But the humans, they have a different kind of strength, a resilience born of adversity, and a refusal to accept defeat. He fixed Loki with an intense stare. We need to pay attention to the humans, Loki. They may be the key to our own survival in the face of future challenges. Odin nodded, picking up on Loki's train of thought. You're absolutely right, Loki. The humans have a lot to teach us about resilience and ingenuity. In fact, Ambassador Gray shared another fascinating story that really drives this point home. He settled back in his chair, his eyes taking on a distant look as he recalled the details of the tale. The ambassador spoke of his own family history, particularly his great-great-grandfather, a farmer named John Gray. John lived in a region of Earth known as the American Midwest, and in the early 20th century, he faced a severe drought that threatened to destroy his crops and livelihood. Loki leaned forward, intrigued. A drought? That must have been devastating for a farmer. How did he cope? That's the incredible part, Odin said, a hint of admiration in his voice. Instead of giving up or accepting defeat, John got creative. He started experimenting with different farming techniques, like crop rotation and water conservation. These methods allowed him to maintain a stable yield, even in the face of such harsh conditions. Odin shook his head. No, and that's another key point. John reached out to other farmers in his area and formed a cooperative. They pooled their resources and knowledge, working together to develop more resilient and sustainable agricultural practices. Over time, their efforts paid off, and the Midwest became one of the most productive farming regions on the planet. Loki sat back, mulling over the implications of the story. It's a testament to the human capacity for innovation and cooperation, even in the face of adversity. They seem to have a knack for finding solutions from the ground up, rather than relying solely on top-down interventions. Exactly, Odin agreed. And that's something we Yadarans could stand to learn from. We tend to rely heavily on government directives and centralized planning, but the humans have shown that grassroots problem-solving can be just as effective, if not more so. Loki nodded, a newfound respect for humanity dawning in his eyes. It's clear that we've underestimated them. Their resilience and adaptability are truly remarkable. Perhaps it's time we start paying closer attention to our human allies and learning from their approach to tackling challenges. Odin smiled, pleased to see his colleague coming around to his point of view. I couldn't agree more, Loki. The humans may be relative newcomers on the galactic stage, but they have a lot to offer. We would be wise to learn from their example and incorporate some of their strategies into our own problem-solving efforts. Loki returned the smile, his mind already racing with possibilities. I think this calls for a more in-depth study of human history and culture. We have much to learn from... Loki leaned back, his mind still processing the incredible tales of human resilience and ingenuity. As he gazed out the viewport at the stars streaking past, another memory from their Earth visit surfaced. Odin, do you remember that strange-looking spacecraft we saw during our tour of the Human Space Agency? The one with the gleaming silver body and the peculiar fins? Odin's eyes lit up with recognition. Ah, yes, the Starhopper, they called it. Quite an impressive piece of engineering. Indeed, Loki agreed, his curiosity piqued. I recall Ambassador Gray mentioning something about it being a prototype for a new generation of rockets. What was the story behind that? Odin leaned forward, eager to share the details. Well, it turns out that the Starhopper was designed by a private company called SpaceX. Michael told us about their founder, a visionary entrepreneur named Elon Musk. Apparently, Musk has made it his personal mission to transform humanity into a multiplanetary species. Loki's eyebrows shot up in surprise. A multiplanetary species? That's quite an ambitious goal, even for the humans. Indeed it is, Odin agreed, but Musk and his team at SpaceX have been making steady progress towards that goal. Despite facing numerous setbacks and skepticism from the established aerospace industry, they've persevered and developed increasingly sophisticated rockets. What makes these rockets so special? Loki inquired, his interest growing by the moment. Well, for one thing, they're designed to be reusable, Odin explained. The rockets can land vertically after a mission and be refurbished for multiple launches. This has drastically reduced the cost of space travel and opened up new possibilities for exploration and colonization. Loki nodded, impressed by the ingenuity of the SpaceX team. That's remarkable. Our own space program has been relying on single-use rockets for decades. The costs have been astronomical, if you'll pardon the pun. Odin chuckled at the quip. Indeed, and that's why I believe we Yadorans could learn a thing or two from the humans' approach to space exploration. Our program is entirely government-run and has become somewhat stagnant in recent years. Perhaps it's time we consider partnering with the private sector to inject some fresh ideas and innovation into our efforts. Loki mulled over the suggestion, his mind racing with possibilities. You may be onto something, Odin. The humans have certainly shown that a single visionary individual can have a profound impact on their species' destiny. It's astounding to think that one man's dream could potentially lead to the colonization of other worlds. It just goes to show that we should never underestimate the power of human ambition and determination, Odin remarked, a hint of admiration in his voice. I wonder what other surprises they might have in store for us as they continue to push the boundaries of what's possible. Loki nodded in agreement, his gaze returning to the stars outside the viewport. One thing's for certain, the humans are a force to be reckoned with. As we continue to forge alliances and collaborate with them, we must remain open to learning from their unique perspectives and approaches to problem-solving. Who knows what incredible feats we might achieve together? Odin smiled, his own mind filled with visions of a future where Yadorans and humans worked side by side to explore the vast reaches of space. Indeed, Loki, the possibilities are truly... Odin chuckled, his eyes sparkling with amusement. The humans are truly full of surprises, Loki. Our meeting with Michael was no exception. Loki leaned forward, intrigued. Oh, do tell. Well, there was this moment during our visit when we witnessed a peculiar human custom. They call it a handshake, Odin explained, his voice tinged with fascination. A handshake? What's that? Loki asked, his brow furrowed in curiosity. Apparently, when humans meet someone for the first time, or seal an agreement, they grasp each other's hands and shake them up and down. It's a gesture of greeting and respect. Loki's eyes widened. They touch each other? But isn't physical contact taboo in our culture? Odin nodded. Indeed it is. I was taken aback at first, but Michael explained that the handshake is a sign of trust and respect among humans. It dates back to ancient times, when it was used to show that one was unarmed. Fascinating, Loki murmured. So they've developed unique ways of building social bonds and overcoming their inherent distrust of strangers. Exactly, Odin agreed. In fact, I was so intrigued that I mustered up the courage to try the handshake myself. Michael was delighted. Loki laughed, picturing Odin awkwardly grasping the human ambassador's hand. I can only imagine how that must have looked, but it's a testament to our willingness to learn from other cultures. Indeed it is, Odin said, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. It makes me wonder if we might be able to incorporate some human customs into our own diplomatic protocols. It could help us build stronger ties with other species in the galaxy. Odin folded his hands on the table, his expression thoughtful. You know, Loki, our conversation about the handshake reminded me of another fascinating aspect of human culture that Michael shared with us. It's their unique approach to problem-solving. Loki tilted his head, curiosity piqued. Oh, do tell, Odin. What did the ambassador have to say about that? Well, he told us about this global initiative they call a hackathon, Odin began, his eyes lighting up with excitement. Apparently, people from all over their world come together to collaborate on solving complex challenges using technology. These events typically last for several days, with participants working around the clock to develop innovative solutions to problems ranging from healthcare to education to environmental sustainability. Loki's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Several days? That's an impressive level of dedication. But who organizes these hackathons? Their government? Corporations? Odin shook his head, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. That's the most incredible part, Loki. These hackathons are often organized by grassroots communities and volunteer groups, rather than formal institutions. It shows how humans are willing to take initiative and work together towards a common goal, even without official structures or incentives in place. Loki leaned back in his chair, marveling at the concept. That's remarkable, Odin. It's a far cry from the bureaucratic and hierarchical approach to problem-solving that we Yardarans favor. I wonder— "What is it, Loki?" Odin prompted, sensing the wheels turning in his colleague's mind. "Well, I was just thinking, what if we could adapt this hackathon model to tackle some of the challenges facing our own society, like the growing gap between rich and poor, or the looming threat of climate change that we've been grappling with?" Odin's eyes widened, a spark of inspiration igniting within them. "You know, Loki, that's a brilliant idea. If the humans can harness the power of collective problem-solving to address such a wide range of issues, perhaps we could do the same. It's definitely worth exploring further." Loki nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. "Agreed, Odin. We should bring this idea back to our superiors on Yadara Prime. Who knows? Maybe the key to solving our most pressing challenges lies in taking a page from the human playbook." As the ship approached Yadara Prime, Odin turned to Loki with a thoughtful expression. "You know, there was one final story that Michael shared with us, and it's been on my mind ever since." Loki raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh, what was it about?" Odin's eyes lit up as he began to recount the tale. "Michael told us about an incredible event that took place in the early 21st century. They called it the International Space Orchestra." "The International Space Orchestra? That sounds fascinating. What was it?" "It was a collaborative project that brought together scientists, engineers, and musicians from all over Earth," Odin explained. "They created a unique symphony inspired by the sounds of space exploration." Loki leaned forward, his interest piqued. "A symphony inspired by space? That's quite an unusual concept." Odin nodded, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Indeed it was. But what was even more remarkable was the fact that the orchestra was composed of individuals from over 20 different countries, many of whom had never met before and spoke different languages." "How did they manage to work together then?" Loki asked, puzzled. "Through the universal language of music," Odin replied. "Despite their differences, they were able to communicate and collaborate on a shared vision that transcended their individual backgrounds." Loki sat back in his chair, marveling at the idea. "That's incredible. It just goes to show the power of human creativity and their ability to find common ground through art and science." Odin's expression grew thoughtful. "You know, Michael played a recording of the symphony for us, and I have to say it was truly remarkable. The beauty and complexity of the composition were unlike anything I've ever heard before." Loki nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. "It makes me wonder, Odin. Perhaps we could learn something from this kind of cultural exchange. We Yardarans have a rich musical tradition of our own, but we rarely engage with other species on an artistic level." Odin's eyes widened, a spark of inspiration igniting within them. "You're absolutely right, Loki. Imagine what we could achieve if we proposed a similar collaborative project with some of the other civilizations we've encountered in our travels." Loki grinned, excited by the prospect. It could be a fantastic opportunity to foster greater understanding and cooperation between our species, and who knows, perhaps we might even create something as beautiful and profound as the International Space Orchestra. As their ship entered orbit around Yadara Prime, the two diplomats felt a renewed sense of purpose and excitement for the future. The lessons they had learned from the humans had opened their eyes to new possibilities, and they were eager to see where this newfound knowledge might lead them. As they disembarked from their ship and made their way through the bustling spaceport, Odin and Loki's conversation continued to revolve around the invaluable insights they had gained during their visit to Earth. The two diplomats walked side by side, their footsteps echoing on the polished floors of the vast terminal. Loki's mind was still buzzing with the stories Michael had shared, and one in particular had left an indelible mark on his psyche. "Odin," he began, his voice tinged with excitement, "do you remember what Michael told us about the Human Library initiative?" Odin nodded, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Of course. It was quite a remarkable concept, wasn't it?" "Indeed," Loki agreed, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. The idea of borrowing a person for a conversation rather than a book is simply brilliant. Imagine the potential for breaking down stereotypes and fostering understanding between individuals from different backgrounds. Odin stroked his chin thoughtfully. It's a powerful tool for promoting empathy and compassion, something that aligns well with our own Yadaran philosophy. Loki's pace quickened as he turned to face his colleague. Exactly. Which is why I've been wondering, what if we could implement a similar program here on Yadera Prime? We could even extend it to include individuals from other species, fostering greater interstellar understanding. Odin's expression grew pensive. It's a compelling idea, Loki, but we must remember that Yadaran culture tends to be more reserved and formal when it comes to social interactions. Implementing such a program would require a significant shift in our societal norms. Loki nodded, acknowledging the challenge. True, but our visit to Earth has shown us the value of stepping outside our comfort zone and embracing new perspectives. If the humans can do it, surely we can too. As they exited the spaceport and headed towards the waiting transport vehicle that would take them to the capital city, Odin placed a hand on Loki's shoulder. You're right, Loki. We have much to learn from humanity, and it's up to us to find ways to apply those lessons to our own society. The two diplomats climbed into the sleek silver transport, their minds already abuzz with ideas and possibilities. As the vehicle sped through the winding streets of Yadera Prime's largest city, Odin and Loki continued to brainstorm, their conversation punctuated by the occasional gasp of excitement or murmur of contemplation. What if we started small? Loki suggested, his eyes bright with enthusiasm. We could pilot the program in a few key locations, perhaps even inviting some of our human allies to participate. Their unique perspectives could be incredibly valuable in fostering greater understanding between our species. Odin nodded, his own mind racing with possibilities, and we could leverage our existing cultural exchange programs to promote the initiative, encouraging Yadarans from all walks of life to participate. Loki grinned, his excitement palpable. Imagine the stories that could be shared, the connections that could be forged. It would be a testament to the power of open-mindedness and the willingness to learn from others. As the transport wove its way through the bustling streets, Odin and Loki continued to exchange ideas, their conversation growing more animated by the minute. They knew that implementing such a program would be no small feat, but they were determined to rise to the challenge. For in the end, they knew that the lessons they had learned from humanity were too valuable to ignore, and if they could find a way to bring even a small piece of that wisdom back to their own people, it would be a victory worth celebrating. As the high-speed maglev train glided effortlessly towards the capital city, Odin and Loki settled into their plush seats, marveling at the sleek interior of the carriage. The Yadaran transport system was a testament to their advanced technology, seamlessly blending comfort and efficiency. Their conversation about Earth's innovations was suddenly interrupted by a voice from across the aisle. "Excuse me, but I couldn't help overhearing your discussion about human technology." The speaker was a Yadaran with a friendly smile, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. "My name is Tyre, and I'm an engineer specializing in renewable energy." Odin and Loki exchanged a glance, pleasantly surprised by the stranger's interest. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Tyr," Odin replied, extending a hand in the human gesture of greeting. "I'm Odin, and this is my colleague, Loki. We just returned from a diplomatic mission to Earth." Tyr's eyes widened with excitement. "Earth? That's fascinating. I've always been intrigued by their advancements, particularly in the field of renewable energy. In fact, I recently came across a breakthrough that caught my attention." Loki leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Oh, do tell us more." Tyr nodded eagerly. "A team of human scientists has developed a new type of solar panel that can generate electricity even in low-light conditions. They're using a material called perovskite, which has the potential to revolutionize the energy industry." Odin stroked his chin thoughtfully. "That sounds incredibly promising. What makes this perovskite so special?" "Well," Tyr began, his voice brimming with enthusiasm, Perovskite is a highly efficient light-absorbing material. It can capture a broader spectrum of light compared to traditional silicon solar cells, which means it can generate electricity even on cloudy days or in dimly lit environments. Loki's eyes widened with realization. So, this technology could make solar power more accessible and affordable for communities around the world? Exactly, Tyre exclaimed. It has the potential to bring clean energy to regions that have traditionally struggled with reliable electricity access. I've been studying the research behind this breakthrough, and I'm eager to see if we could apply it here on Yadara Prime. Odin nodded, understanding the significance of Tyr's words. Our planet has been grappling with an increasing demand for resources, and our energy sector has been struggling to keep up with the growing population. This perovskite technology could be a game-changer. Tyr's face lit up with excitement. Absolutely. I've been working on some preliminary designs to incorporate perovskite solar cells into our existing infrastructure. If we can harness this technology effectively, it could help us meet our energy needs while reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. As Odin and Loki listened to Tyr's passionate explanations, they couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and inspiration. The engineer's enthusiasm was contagious, and his insights into the potential applications of human technology were eye-opening. Loki turned to Odin, a smile playing on his lips. It's incredible, isn't it? Even a casual conversation with a fellow Yadaran can yield such valuable insights and ideas. Odin nodded in agreement. Our visit to Earth has not only broadened our own horizons, but has also sparked a ripple effect of curiosity and inspiration among our people. It's a testament to the power of knowledge sharing and collaboration. As the maglev train sped towards its destination, the three Yadarans continued their lively discussion, delving deeper into the intricacies of perovskite solar cells and the potential impact they could have on Yadara Prime's energy landscape. The conversation flowed seamlessly, punctuated by moments of laughter and shared excitement. Odin and Loki couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the serendipitous encounter with Tyr. It was a reminder that even the most unexpected connections could lead to meaningful exchanges and new possibilities. As the capital city came into view, its towering spires glinting in the sunlight, Odin and Loki exchanged a knowing glance. Their journey to Earth had been more than just a diplomatic mission. It had been a catalyst for change, a spark that had ignited a flame of curiosity and innovation among their fellow Yadarans. And as they stepped off the train, ready to embark on the next chapter of their adventure, they knew that the lessons they had learned from humanity would continue to shape their world in ways they had yet to imagine. As the maglev train sped towards the capital city, Odin and Loki sat in contemplative silence, their minds still processing the wealth of information they had gleaned from their visit to Earth. The rhythmic hum of the train's engines provided a soothing backdrop to their thoughts, allowing them to reflect on the myriad ways in which humanity had defied the odds and achieved the seemingly impossible. Their resilience is truly remarkable, Odin mused, his gaze fixed on the blur of the passing landscape. To think of all the challenges they've faced, and yet they've still managed to accomplish so much. Loki nodded in agreement, his own expression pensive. The way they've harnessed technology to solve problems and improve their lives, it's nothing short of incredible, and their creativity, their ability to innovate and think outside the box. It's humbling, isn't it? Odin said softly. To realize that even with all our advancements, there's still so much we can learn from them. But as they continued to discuss the many triumphs of the human spirit, Loki's brow furrowed, a troubled look crossing his face. There's something else, though, he said hesitantly. Something Michael told me just before we left. Odin turned to face his colleague, curious. What is it? Loki sighed, his shoulders slumping slightly. Despite all their progress, all their achievements, humanity is still struggling with some deep-seated issues. Inequality, discrimination, conflict, these things still plague their society. Odin's eyes widened in surprise. Really? But they seemed so united, so focused on the greater good. On the surface, perhaps, Loki said grimly. But Michael spoke of ongoing struggles for social justice, of a society still divided along lines of race, class, and ideology. It was a sobering reminder that even the most advanced civilizations are not immune to the flaws and weaknesses that afflict us all. Odin leaned back in his seat, his mind reeling from this revelation. It's a difficult truth to confront, he admitted, but perhaps it's also an opportunity for us to reflect on our own shortcomings, to acknowledge that we too have work to do. Loki nodded, his expression solemn. The Yadarans may have achieved much, but we are not perfect. We have our own share of social and political challenges to address, and we must remain vigilant in our efforts to build a more just and equitable society. As the train pulled into the station at the capital city, Odin and Loki rose from their seats, their faces etched with a newfound sense of purpose. They knew that their journey to Earth had changed them in ways they were still struggling to comprehend, and that they had a responsibility to share their insights with their fellow Yadarans. But they also knew that the path ahead would be fraught with difficulties, that true progress would require them to confront uncomfortable truths and make difficult choices. As they stepped out onto the platform and into the bustling crowds of the city, Odin and Loki exchanged a look of silent understanding. "We have our work cut out for us," Odin murmured, his voice barely audible above the din of the station. "Indeed," Loki agreed, his jaw set with determination. "But we cannot shy away from the challenge. The future of our world, and perhaps the entire galaxy, depends on our willingness to build bridges and find common ground, even in the face of adversity." And with that, the two diplomats strode forward, their steps purposeful as they made their way out into the bright sunlight of the city streets. They had a mission to fulfill, a duty to their people and to the greater good, and they would not rest until they had seen it through to the end. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.